Hi, it's another episode of Let's Chat Sales, and I just wrapped up in April an accelerator program here in Baltimore. And so, as a consequence of that, I thought it might be interesting to talk a little bit about what goes into an accelerator and how founders might think about it. So, that's what this chat is about. If you like it, like and subscribe down there, and let's get started. Hey, Bob, it's another episode of Let's Chat Sales, and we just wrapped up the Accelerate Baltimore Accelerator program last night, in fact. And I thought that we'd
It's been 10 years, right?
This is the 10th year. Yeah. And I get to do it again next year, it looks like.
They've helped, what was it?
57
And
companies.
all over the place, right?
All over. Well, they're Baltimore-based companies mostly.
I mean, I'm sorry, in terms of what they accomplish.
Oh, yeah. They're all,
from medical stuff to boating,
companies,
to gamification.
There's a dating app. There've been news apps in the past. There've been a lot of different, both B2B and B2C companies. And so what I thought we'd do is just chat a little bit about how to think about the accelerator from a founder standpoint. Does that make sense?
I like that. Yeah.
So I have to start by saying that I recognized you last night during the session, but not enough. I mean, you were really helpful throughout the whole process, brainstorming ideas, being supportive and coming up with ideas. So just as a side note, I really appreciate your huge contribution. It was really, very good. Yeah.
Now people are going to be very confused because you're always making fun of me as a sidekick. And now you
as
said
a sidekick,
nice.
Because you do the goofy thing. And this is supposed to be very professional.
But they love it when I say, let's chat sales.
There we go. There it is. You got in after all. Damn it.
So you've worked with these companies. You were on the committee that chose the companies that were going to be in this incubator. And my recollection is there were 105 applicants.
Yeah, more than that.
You chose 5. So what are the things, if I'm a founder, I need to be thinking about to make myself one of those 5? Because that's pretty small.
It's an excellent question. I've been wrestling with that a lot. First of all, I think the less is more is the theme I would have when you are kind of conveying who you are and what you do. We got over 100 applications, and many of them didn't do a very good job of explaining who they were, what problem they solved, and who their customer was. And that's a message that you really need to have crisp and simple and immediately digestible.
And it's got to be in the customer's words too, right?
Yeah.
Not in the founder's words that, I worked with a student one time who had a PhD, and he was talking about a solution using the academic literature words. And the people that he was talking to had no idea what he was talking about because they hadn't read the journal articles. And so when he turned it into English, suddenly people are like, oh, that sounds really amazing.
Yeah. And I suppose that one of the reasons is if you're a founder with a company and you've been doing it for any length of time, you feel like you know it, and you use shorthand when you describe things, or you make assumptions about what your company does. And so you don't communicate a message that someone from the outside can immediately understand. If there's one key takeaway, it's make your message super simple and then test it with others. Like, hey, here's my message. This is what we do. And ask complete strangers even, hey, this is what we do. It's amazing how often people explain their business in a way that is unintelligible to somebody else from the outside.
So Brendan, I'm going to put you on the spot here. We didn't preview this, but can you do this if you were doing an incubator application, or you were trying to meet with an incubator committee or an accelerator committee, and you were talking about this podcast, you were trying to get funding for this podcast? What would those 3 sentences be?
Oh, that's a good question. So I would say I run a podcast with my sidekick, and we talk about basic fundamental sales problems and solutions from the perspective of the early stage founder. That's what we work on. And we have an audience of X, and we specifically try to keep the episodes to 15 minutes or less because people are busy and we want them to be simple and digestible and actionable and fun.
Okay, that was great. I put you on the spot. You did a great job. As I dissect that, you told us who you were trying to appeal to.
Yep.
You told us exactly what you do.
Yep.
You gave us some details about what differentiates you. These episodes are under 15 minutes, so they're not, Grant Cardone or Brendan Bouchard or some of those longer forms.
Yep.
And you also talked about who was doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that was maybe 45 seconds, and that's all it takes. I think sometimes people think like I have to tell you, well, I got this idea back when I was in ninth grade, and my grandmother said to me, I'll never forget, she was making cinnamon cookies, and they get so sidetracked with these details that are so profoundly important to them.
Yep.
But they don't matter to the solution, because it's like a novel. You've got to start where the action is.
Yep.
We want to know what the conflict is. Here's the issue. This is the problem. Here's my solution.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one critical one. The next one is, what is it that you expect to get out of the program? Can you articulate that? As a founder, when you're completing your application, that's inevitably one of the questions they're going to ask. What do you expect to get out of it? And so you need to have a good answer.
And funding is not the right answer.
Funding is not the right answer. And we'll get to that in a minute. What is it that you want to take away? Do you want to develop a network? Do you want to have mentors? Do you want to learn more about marketing execution or sales or whatever those things are? That's an important thing to figure out and get right and articulate, again, crisply and simply, so that someone that's pouring through 100 or more of these applications can quickly see, it makes it easy to read, whether it's bullets or whatever. Like, what are the key things you want to get out of the program? The next one for me is, what is it that you can contribute to the program? Because these things are collaborative events, right? They're collaborative. You're in a team, you're in a group setting with other companies, and
it's a cohort. So you're getting to know each other and supporting each other.
So what do you bring to the equation? What are your specific skills? So you're selling yourself a little bit in that regard. That
could be technical expertise. I've started 4 mobile apps, or I've sold X number of dollars worth of whatever, or
right.
I have a degree in graphic design, so I'm really good. It doesn't have to be a one-to-one. If you're trying to do an elegant solution that's gaming, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be a gaming thing that you're going to say that's obvious.
Right.
It's other stuff.
Exactly. You want to say, here's where I'm really strong. So I fully expect that I can contribute to the team here and here and here. I've done this before. I'm a Python developer, or I know graphic design, or whatever your skill set is that you can bring to the equation in a way that you can convey that, hey, listen, I'm going to contribute. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be 100% committed to this. I'm going to spend that time. I'm going to make the investment. Those things I think are really important. The next one is like, you need to have a good explanation for what you plan to do with the money. If there's money involved, a lot of accelerators have some sort of funding component to them. Accelerate Baltimore did as well. And so it really helps if you've got a thoughtful explanation for what you intend to do with the money.
And paying salaries is not a good one, right?
It's not typically a good one. Other people's salaries, maybe, but your own as a founder, probably not. So if you're early stage, when you're just at MVP, and you're saying, I want to use it to spend for advertising dollars, that may not be the right way to go. If you haven't got a few customers by brute force, by going out and doing selling, and you just think you're just going to be able to advertise, that's probably not a good idea. So having a good explanation for what you're going to do with the money, how you're going to use the money is a critically important question.
I think it's one of the more important questions. I've seen so many times founders like, well, we have X number of dollars in debt.
Yeah.
We're going to use it to pay off debt. Or I've been working for 3 years at this and never taken $1.
Yeah.
So I'll use it to pay my expenses. Any of these can be disqualifying. And the other thing we should probably point out, you don't often hear why you're not chosen. So it's not like you get a letter that says, Dear Brendan, we really liked your proposal, but we didn't like the section where you talked about your salary being what you use the funding for.
Yeah, it's funny. I got a number of emails back from people asking me, hey, why did you? And it's a burden, but I answered a lot of them. And many of the answers that I gave were these sorts of answers to these questions. Mm-hmm. They're in it you want to support them. You want them to be successful. And I also don't want them to waste time. So some of the applications were 4 or 5 pages long, single space, just torturous to read. The other one I was going to say, and we kind of touched on this in the beginning, but I'm going to reiterate it, is, or get more specific with it. And that is, you have to be able to explain to the people reviewing your application, who's my customer? Who exactly? The more you can specifically explain who you're selling, who's buying your product and why they're buying it, like being—
And not just men, right? Or women, but like men between the age of 34 and 37 who have early gray facial hair and are trying to solve that problem, right?
Yeah.
And I know people are laughing, saying, "Oh my God, that's incredibly specific," but that's what it takes.
I'm coaching executive women in a certain group because they were the most likely to be able to, her messaging and her approach would resonate with those. And from that very specific niche, she could then expand other groups over time by building out the product. This allowed her to be very specific with her product so that the messaging and the kind of the content could be tailored to that particular demographic. Executive women aged 35 to 55, high level. And so now she can target them. She knows exactly where they are. They're at Fortune 5,000 companies. She can find them on LinkedIn easily enough.
And the accelerator people reviewing it might have connections.
Exactly.
Wow, we have a connection with here, or our company that we worked with 3 years ago. Yeah. But I think the more specific that can be, the better it can be.
You could easily niche down very quickly. So if you can show that kind of discipline, hey, we're starting with this very small group. If we can validate with this market, right? So it's that kind of specificity that's really encouraging to someone that reads a lot of these evaluations. The other one is, and not easy to do, but can you convey enthusiasm and excitement and dedication in your application? When we go and look at accelerator candidates, we want people that are going to make an investment, that are going to be committed. They're going to show up every week. They're going to do the exercises. They're going to execute on the things they learn. That's critically important to kind of convey that in your application.
How would I do that, Brendan?
It's things like, can you include a 1-minute video with your application? And I say 1 minute because I have people look at it and get through it really quickly because there's so many of these. Don't get fancy. Just put it on YouTube, record it from your phone, and just say, hey, I'm really excited about being in this program. Here's why, blah, blah, blah. I do this, I'm this. This is what I'm working on, what I get out of it. You can reiterate the same stuff you're going to talk about in the application, but if you can do it in a minute and convey a level of intensity, a level of excitement, enthusiasm, and determination, those sorts of things, it's the little extra steps. It's just those little extra things that matter, I think.
I think that's a great list, Brendan. I'd be afraid to go too much further because you've given people a lot to digest.
Yeah, well, I think accelerators can be really great programs for early stage startups because it enforces a certain amount of discipline. You're accountable. You're learning across a lot of different areas. Because in my group, you got mentors, you're developing your network. I mean, they got to meet with VCs, investors, finance, product people,
sidekicks,
marketing people. They get their you get your occasional sidekick. And you cannot put a price on that, Bob.
No, you can't.
The whole sidekick thing. That is,
and you didn't, as I recall.
Invaluable. I found it. Touche. All right. So, listen. One thing I don't want. Yeah, one thing about these podcasts is I don't want people to think that we're having too much fun. This is supposed to be a professional enterprise here. So,
but I think part of what makes it fun, Brendan, is the personalities coming out.
I know.
So it's healthy debate.
That's right.
This has been really great, though. I think you gave some clarity around some things that seem rather mysterious.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. I think that's helpful. And I'll probably write it up as well. So.
Okay. All right. I'll look forward to it.
Until next time.
You know what this is?
What?
Let's chat sales.
See you, Bob.
See you.
Okay. That was another episode of Let's Chat Sales, and I hope you found it useful. There's another one right here. Try that one. Should be great. And they're short. How can you go wrong?